Oh my gosh. I just want to talk about giving. I don't think we're live yet, actually, EA, because StreamYard is hanging up. I'm going to go on the assumption, I'm not seeing that we're live, but I'm going to go on the assumption that we are. Okay, we'll just do it.
Okay.
We're talking about giving. Giving is what we are doing here, and giving should be a lifestyle. And this gentleman has made it a lifestyle and a business. But the reason it's a business is because you can turn, and he does this, turn givers into millionaires. This is EA Csolkovitz from Givers University, third time on the program.
Yeah. What? That's crazy. That's just crazy. The third time. It's like, I think I almost would qualify for the Saturday Night Live alumni. Wasn't Chevy Chase? I don't know. He might have been like 5 times there. But anyway, so I remember the old days of Saturday Night Live when it was much more innocent and didn't have a nasty edge, but so much more fun. And thank you to have me back on the Chris Jones Media Empire Intergalactic Entertainment Center.
Intergalactic? Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's the next step. After the U.S., after the world, then you have to go intergalactic.
I got a request to play a song from somebody on Venus. So it's getting out there for sure.
Yeah, I guess.
We want to talk about this giver's mindset, EA. And this is what's done you very, very well. First of all, the GU. What is exactly, for somebody who doesn't know, and this is only seeing you for the first time here, what exactly is the Givers University? Let's talk about that.
We're an online university, and we teach a skill that's not being taught. And I look forward to being able to share with your listeners shortly here how all that came about. But we teach a skill, and I can say, interestingly enough, do you know that this is, with my interview with you, is my 201st interview since last April. My goal was 200 to April to April, 200 guest interviews, and today is 201. So Chris Jones again goes past the goal the way he always does. All right, so over delivering as you always do, Chris. So
thanks so much.
Thank you for having me back, for sure. We teach a skill at Givers University. It's an online university, and the skill in one word is discernment. And I say to your listeners, we love everybody. I say it again, we love everybody. And we teach people this skill, not being taught anywhere else, of how to separate the person who we love from their deeds, which we may not love. And by discerning their deeds, not listening to what they're saying, but by watching what they do. Because as we say at Givers University, your talk talks and your walk talks. But your walk talks louder than your talk talks.
Yeah.
And by the way, I practiced that right before I said it. So I was.
Yeah.
It came right out there.
From rehearsing, didn't it?
Yeah. And I've never tried it with crackers and peanut butter in my mouth, just to let you know.
Oh, we should do that sometime.
Yeah. So, high entertainment quality right there. So we teach people a skill set of observation. Yes. Watch what they're doing. And we even have checklists where we give away these things free. Download this checklist, use it in your life, help discern who you should bring in closer in your life.
Yeah.
And who we should respectfully distance ourselves from. Not rude or nasty, but we can watch the deeds and watch the things they're doing. And by watching those deeds, we can now begin to discern, maybe I should be respectfully distancing myself, because if I bring that person closer into my life based on what I'm seeing them do, they're going to make me collateral damage. And I'm going to be stomping out fires, not of my making. My stress level is going to go up every time someone says their name. And it's all because no one taught how to discern up front. What do you look for up front? So, Chris, when we say giver, we're not labeling a people. We don't label people. We don't say that person is a giver. We're identifying giver deeds. And when we say taker, we're not labeling a person, like Invasion of Body Snatchers.
Oh my God.
We don't do that. We don't label people takers. We're identifying taker deeds. And then this helps us improve the quality of our life so dramatically.
Wow. There you go. And that's basically, you need to discern who you should surround yourself with, basically, because if you surround yourself with people that take, or taking is the deed that they perform, is that how you separate it? Not the person, but the deed, right?
Yes,
That's really what it is. So if you surround yourself with people that are taking all the time and not really giving a whole lot, you're not going to do well. You're not going to thrive. You're not going to. But if you surround yourself with givers, you'll do much better. I guess is that kind of the gist, or
for
am I?
sure. And, I ask your listeners, Chris, think about the fires you stamp out during the day.
Yeah.
Think about when your stress level goes up. There's something in common with those. There's a name attached to them. And since no one's teaching how to discern who should I bring in close. Now, I know, Chris, I've followed you for some time. And by the way, you have a marvelous show. I love it. You provide
Thank you.
so much quality. You really genuinely do. And,
Thank
and, by watching the quality that you bring and with people and the people you surround yourselves with, but, we have businesses opening and closing faster than ever before in history.
you.
We have products being antiquated overnight by brand new products. And it's happening faster and faster. When all is said and done, Chris, all we have left is our relationships. And no one's
Yeah.
teaching you how to, you're a self-improvement person. I'm a self-improvement geek. I'm sure many of your listeners are. But Chris, no one's teaching us, what if the other guy's doing it wrong? What should I do about that? And if I bring him closer, he's going to make me collateral damage. And through the grenades he launches at me every day, I'm going to be stomping out all these fires instead of being productive.
The kind of people that need to know the difference between the givers and takers and do the actual discerning. Well, everybody in all walks of life, theoretically, yes. But in business, a hiring manager, an HR person, right? Because if you hire the wrong person, that just creates a toxic culture. Now, and I heard this mentioned by Gary Vaynerchuk once or twice, that if your top salesman could be the top salesman and you're actually profitable because of this one guy, theoretically, but he creates such a toxic culture and nobody else can stand the guy and they're all non-productive, you'd be better off theoretically getting rid of the guy. Would you go that route?
I totally agree. And the fact, because of how it influences other people's productivity. So they maybe seem like they're productive, but it's by default because of what they're doing to everyone else. And, so everyone else's productivity goes out of the way. When we learn how to discern those people that are around us and to decide who should we pull in close, who should be respectfully distancing, not rude or nasty. We don't have to be nasty with them. Just be respectful, but just not as available to them, because we know that time can easily turn into stomping out fires time. And my mentor taught me all of this. I didn't make up any of this. From the things he shared with me, I was just a conduit because he talked me into believing that I can do it. What? Anyway, so there he was. And I'd like to share, if I can, a couple of stories that each have a little bit of a moral after them that my mentor shared with me. And he really was
what was his name, by the way?
His name was Sam Robbins.
Okay.
And when I met him in my teens, and I was very blessed. He was the father I never had, even though I had a father, and I was the son he never had, even though he had a son. And I loved my father, and he loved his son, but we were just that close. It was
right.
His own wife would even say that, right? And he told me one time about what it was like to grow up during the Great Depression. And so here he is telling me this story. And he said, it was very desperate times. He said, people were literally jumping off of buildings because they had lost their fortune, committing suicide. They lost their fortunes. He said there was multi-mile long soup kitchen lines. He said more than 1 mile long just to stand in line to get a bowl of soup. Very desperate times. And he said no one was hiring. And he said everyone was just sort of walking around in a zombified kind of state. And so he walked by this store and he saw this man in the store all by himself. The guy was way in the back of the store. So he just went in. My mentor just went in just to talk with him, just to sort of burn the clock, if anything, So it turned out the guy in the back of the store owned the store. He owned it was a sewing machine store. It was filled with sewing machines. The sewing machines were clearly collecting dust. He was the only guy in the store. And so it turns out that, the man told my mentor that, he owned the store and he paid up for all these sewing machines that are around collecting dust. And he said, obviously no one's buying sewing machines. They're looking for food. And he said, I'd let all my employees go. I couldn't afford to even have my employees. So I come in every day to keep an eye on the sewing machines. And he said, really, that's it, waiting for the clock to go, and so my mentor had this flash in his mind. And he said, well, how about if I helped you sell some of these? And the guy said, well, what do you have in mind? He said, well, how about if we sold them on payments, your sewing machines on payments, instead of, because people can't afford to buy a sewing machine. He said, but they might be able to afford payments. And he said, I'll split the payments with you. I'll set it up. He said, I'll guarantee any sewing machines. If anyone walks, you won't be out any money. And the guy says, man, do it. All these sewing machines are paid for. If one walks out the door, that's more than what's walking out the door right now,
Yeah.
So my mentor, the next thing he did was extraordinary, Chris.
What?
He put together a flyer, and the flyer said, women to work from home. He told me he never fully caught up with all the responses. He never caught up totally because no one was hiring. So the fact that anyone was hiring, and he put together this system, this is so extraordinary, for women to work from home. He sold them the sewing machine on payments. He gave them the patterns to sew with. He gave them the material to make the garments with.
Right.
And he guaranteed he would buy them from them, thus guaranteeing their income so they could make the payment on the sewing machine and also have income left over for food and everything else everyone wanted in that desperate time. And then he wasn't through. Then when he bought that clothing from the women working from home, he sold it to stores as high quality, very deep discounted clothing that the stores then sold to their customers who all wanted high quality clothing at the deepest possible discount you could get it from. In 18 months, Chris, people are jumping off of buildings.
Yeah.
People are standing in multi-mile long soup kitchen lines.
Right.
In 18 months, he earned $1 million. That's depression $1 million. Today, that's got to be over 20 million easily.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so he shared with me what happened with all of that, because I was equally physically and mentally and emotionally taken back the way you just were. I mean, the same thing, I might have done the same move. I stepped literally, right? And he said the following. He said, all I really did was recognize their problems. I recognized the sewing machines guy owner's problem, and I helped him solve his problem. I recognized that families needed to earn income. So I created this way for them to earn income. He said, I helped the stores be able to sell a product they all needed that they could get at very deep, deep discounts with these high quality clothing. He said, I just went down the line and solved everyone's problem. He said, now, here's the biggest thing and the lesson to learn from that. He said, as you go on, you're going to get tackled 1,000 times in life. He said, anyone that says everything's been perfect for them and they've never been tackled in business, he said, start to distance yourself from them now because they're next. He said, and if everything's been perfect, they've been saving up, it's going to be a whopper. Start distancing yourself. Right? So he said, here's what's extraordinary about all of this. He said, do you know you're never going to have money problems in your whole life? And I said, what? He said, you never will. I said, well, how could that be? He said, you never will have money problems. He said, you will have idea challenges, but you'll never have money challenges. He said, because every solution, every great enterprise,
right,
every big business all started with one idea in the mind of one person. He said, so remember when things get lean in your life, and he said, it's going to happen. He said, fortunes are going to come and go and come and go and come and go. That's what happens. He said, remember, you do not have money problems at any one time. You have idea challenges. And he said, and you look for the ideas. And he said, most people are so preoccupied with trying to find the answer. And he said, that's wrong. He said, it's backwards. Don't look for the answer. The answers are around us. They're omnipresent. They'll always be around us. They're always there. He said, focus on asking the right questions. He said, people ask the wrong question. They get the wrong answers. And then they're surprised when they got the wrong answer, when it was just the answer for what they asked.
Wow. That's, well, there's some sound bites for you. EA is the soundbite guy. He's the soundbite guy. Um, that is simply amazing. Now, we've told this story before. And by the way, we are taking comments, questions. We are live. If you are can look up from your lunch right now. What time is it where you are, EA, right now?
12:12.
So we're in the same time zone. Yeah. So look up from your lunch, and if you want to ask EA a question about his story, at what age did you become? I got to say this because I'm curious. I think I know, but I want to be sure. At what age did you yourself become a millionaire?
I share the information not to be braggadocious, but to genuinely to share with your listeners the importance of having a mentor who has done it.
There you go.
Since my mentor had already earned millions of dollars. See, and that's so there's the difference between a coach and a mentor. And by the way, I forgive me, I will get your answer. There is a big difference between a coach and a mentor. A coach can teach you a skill at one moment. How do you do social media? How do you do this? How do you do that? Right? I mean, you can learn skills from a coach. A mentor is a much more personal, confidential relationship that, it's not what you do, it's why you do that. Why are you thinking that? That's what a mentor gets to, that helps you to. And sure. I'm an advocate for mentoring. If your listeners, any of your listeners do not have a mentor, they're going to hear this from me personally. If you don't have a mentor, in my world, we call that naive. That's what we call it. Because when you have a mentor that's done it, and by the way, don't be afraid to ask that question. Could you explain to me what you've done, right? Because when you have a mentor that's done it, they now bring with them all the things that didn't work. And that's the wisdom. That's where the wisdom is, as opposed to the thousands of educated idiots I've met in my life, that have all the book knowledge. They have all the information they can spew back at you, but they've never done it. They don't have any execution or implementation skills.
Yeah, how much money those people make too.
Oh, yeah. And really what happens, you're paying them for their education.
Yeah.
Get a mentor that's done it. Simply ask, can you share what you've done? And when you find a mentor that really is genuinely someone who's done it, you'll find that they're very open to helping you and answer questions and being there for you. So because I listened to my mentor, I was intelligently ignorant. I was too dumb to realize I couldn't do it. And I believed in him more than I believed in me.
Wow.
By the time I was 23, I was a millionaire. When I was 33 in 1989, at 33 years old, that was the first year I earned $1 million in personal salary, not business money. That was after I paid my taxes that year. I had $1 million in my pocket in actual money in the bank at the end of the year in 12 months. And why? It wasn't me. It was because I listened to someone who had done it. And when he said, do this, I did it. When he said, jump, I asked how high and how far. And, and I did it. So I say those things to let your listeners know this is the importance of having a mentor. If you haven't done those things, like I just mentioned, I can tell you could do it earlier and you could do it faster, but you need to have someone who can teach you how to do it. Otherwise, you're just floundering and you're just making mistakes. And, today everyone wants to be so preeminent, Chris. They want to be the smartest person in the room. My mentor said, if you're the smartest person in the room, excuse me. He said, you're in the wrong room.
The wrong room.
Get into a room where you can learn something, right? And so he taught me these vital lessons. And I was so blessed to have him in my life. So I'm an advocate for mentoring. If you're listening to the show and you don't have a mentor, then you better get one, because if not, I'm EA saying right now, we call that naive, because you're wasting so much time, making so many mistakes, when you could have someone teach you how to compress time, money, effort, results, and to get the results you want. Get a mentor.
You yourself are a mentor to some people within the organization. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
For sure. And happy to do so. Two other stories I'd like to share with your listeners that each have a moral.
Go ahead.
The first one is, at 19 years old, my mentor said to me, let me teach you about this thing called life. I thought, well, this should be interesting. Right, life. He said, picture in your mind this huge scale. And on the right side of the scale are all the things you're going to get in your life, all the benefits, the income, the blessings, all the things that are going to come to you in your life are coming from the right side of the scale. He said the left side of the scale are all things you're going to give and contribute: income, time, effort, charity, tithing, blessings for others. All the things you're going to give are on the left side of the scale. He said, now here's what's interesting about the scale. It strives for balance. It's never out of balance. Even at a static moment, if it seems like it's out of balance, it balances itself. He said, the next thing I say, it will be the hard part. He said, this is the hard part. But once you get your head around it, he said, you'll be unstoppable. He said, here's what you do. This is the hard part. Forget about the right side of the scale.
Right.
Forget about it. Everyone goes there. He said, and make it your job to heave so much on the left side of that scale that your new daily goal is to get the scale out of balance because you've heaved so much on that left side. And he said, when you do that, you'll never have to worry about what comes to you on the right side of that scale. And he said, most people live backwards. And that's why most people, if you add even in the United States, if you add all the income together for the average American of their whole lifetime, it still isn't $1 million.
No.
Right. And I got to say, the tragedy of life is not death. It's what dies within us while we are alive. And
potential.
The
potential is there.
For sure. And because they don't realize the giver scale of life that my mentor taught me. So he shared with me, if you want to be a millionaire, then you've got to help other people become a millionaire. He said, don't worry about your $1 million. He said, I'll guarantee you help enough other people become millionaires, which I did, listening to him. And guess what? All of a sudden I was one. Wow.
There you go. More sound bites. That is awesome. Can you, I've been wanting to ask you this, and this is the third time we've talked, but can you give me an example of somebody that has been helped immensely by Givers University? Can you, without mentioning a name, or maybe it's just a scenario, can you just give us an example of what Givers University really does for people?
Well, actually, you hit it on the head. One of the gentlemen is an HR, has his own HR business, and he went through our graduation course, the Give to Be Great courses, which consists of 3 courses, and uses the checklist for hiring purposes and to discern with other relationships, and clearly said that skill was not taught. And I tell you, this man has more letters after his name than I even have in my last name. So you can only imagine how educated he is, right? And he said, out of all those courses, not one of them ever taught him how to discern. And how to discern in relationships and the people we have around us every day. So here's a literal HR person, has her own HR business that has such insight now into people by keeping his own private checklist, if you will. He doesn't show it to them. He doesn't need to show it to them, but he watches what they do and he discerns. And because of that, it has a profound impact. And he said the value of the courses and credit hours was 3 times the value of any single course he took in any college whatsoever, because of the value of learning relationships, the value of learning what will impact us more than the people around us in our life every day. That's business, right. Social, and family.
Wow. There you go. Perfect. Love it. Somebody wants to get a hold of you directly, they can do it on LinkedIn, right?
LinkedIn, and also what we really like them to do is go to our YouTube channel and look for a playlist. The top playlist is called How to Form Your Own Giver Community.
There you go.
It's 21 2-minute clips. The very first clip is, what's the difference between a giver community and taker community? And in 2 minutes, we define that. And then we walk them through over 21 separate 2-minute clips. It's free. It's on YouTube, right? 21 2-minute clips, walking them through how to form their own community. And then once they've formed it, what do you do with it? What's the agenda? What should you cover? What step by step? They just go to YouTube. It's Givers University, no spaces, all one word, Givers University on YouTube. The very top playlist is how to form your own giver community. And one last story. Can I share? Can I squeeze in one story?
Yes, you can.
All right.
Go ahead.
I had worked my way up. My mentor, because he had mentioned to me what it was like living during the Depression, and for some of his meals, they actually had and ate cardboard.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you want to talk about having a meal? That's tough.
Yeah.
Try living on cardboard, right? And it took a toll on his life. And he had diabetes, and he went home early because of that, if you will. But at 33 years old, I had worked my way up, and we were equal partners in businesses. We owned them 50-50. We were splitting the income 50-50, et cetera. And one day he came to me, Chris, and he said, EA, I would like to have us compete against each other. And I was working, and I looked up, and he had that look in his eyes, right? Do you remember the old show years ago, Chris, that was called The Monkees, about this fictitious musical group, right? Right. And if you remember, in every episode of The Monkees, Davy Jones fell in love and his eyes would twinkle like stars, because in every episode he fell in love and his eyes twinkled, right?
Yeah.
My mentor had that look in his eyes, right? So he had I called the Davy Jones look, right? And I knew when he had that look, something was up, right? So he said, I propose we compete against each other. And I said, well, Sam, what'd you have in mind? And he said, well, this is what I propose. We compete year by year to see who can earn the other person more money. He said, now, if I'm going to compete to earn more money for you than you earn for me next year. And he said, if I win by earning you more money than you earn me, I get to ask you for anything I want, and you, as the loser, have to buy it. And I said, okay. I said, wait, Sam, I want to make sure I understand this. What you're saying is every year we're going to compete, see who can make the other one more money. And if you make me more money than I made you that year, you win, I lose. You get to ask for anything you want. I have to buy it for you. And he said, that's right. And I said, okay, so the other side's true too, right? That means if I make you more money than you make me, I get to ask for anything I want, and you have to buy it for me too. And he said, that's right. Chris, I'll never forget the sigh I made when I went, okay, this is going to be interesting. Because the stakes are pretty high, right?
They are.
Chris, the first year, he beat me so bad, it was brutal. And I paid cash for him for a house in Florida.
Oh my gosh.
Now, I couldn't be mad. He made me more money than I made him, and I had the money. So it wasn't like, there's nothing to be mad about. And I thought to myself, man, I better get smart quick. This is going to be brutal year by year, right? And then next year I did win, and he bought me an aircraft, and that's when I became a commercial pilot.
Oh, okay.
The next year he bought me a limousine, and I had a full-time valet. And the next year he bought me a second airplane. So the fourth year we started carrying it on. And then, Chris, it hit me what this guy had done. It hit me. It took me 4 years to figure it out. Here's what it was. He knew at 33 years old, he couldn't keep up with me anymore. His health was deteriorating because of his advanced diabetes. Eventually, he went home early because of it. And he knew schedule-wise, and just every day, he couldn't keep up with me. I could put in more hours. I could do a faster pace. And because we were splitting everything 50-50, he didn't want my mind to get goofed up. So he put together this way that he wanted me to win. Yeah. And I thought, Chris, who comes up with something like this? I mean, who thinks of the ideal, most amazing contest in the world, thinking my mind might get screwed up if we're splitting everything 50-50, and he wants me to have something he's not getting because he knows I'm putting in more effort. He wants to put in the effort. His health is deteriorating. He's not able to.
Wow.
So I thought, who comes up with this? And I named that the Giver's Contest Intention. And I share with you as a part of, and I mentioned that in the How to Form Your Own Giver community episodes on YouTube, how important it is to approach relationships with the Giver's Contest intention. And it will have a profound impact on how people will respond to you and how other people will help you along on your journey into becoming a millionaire in your life.
Well, there you are. That is a perfect place to end it. That was such a great story. And I'm trying to wrap my head all around the whole thing. I am. And it's just mind-boggling how, I've never heard of that before. That's absolutely amazing. We've been a half an hour, EA. So what I want to do while we end this, I did this before. We're going to get off of the, we're going to change the subject, and I'm just going to ask you what your favorite movie is.
Lord of the Rings.
That is awesome. That's perfect. If you could go back in time and speak to somebody that influenced you, a mentor of any type, anybody, you had a mentor, but is he still around? He is, right?
No, he passed on a couple decades back.
Oh, okay, sorry. Well, if you had a time machine, you could go back and talk to somebody in the past that influenced you. Would it be you having one more conversation with him, or what would you like to do if you had the chance?
Well, if I went back, the one thing I would do is I would talk to me and say, learn quicker how not to be fearful or to step back and be okay with earlier in life and faster to be able to ask more questions and say more often than I already did. I don't know about that. Could you teach me about that? I'd love to learn.
There you go. EA Csolkovitz from Givers University. Third time's the charm. Loved having you. And we're going to do it again sometime.
Thank you, Chris.
In fact, and I just thought of this as I was closing out. You're very welcome. You have a podcast. You're on a lot of other podcasts. You do a lot of different things. Real quick, if you can go over some of them, what you've done, what you are doing.
Well, as I mentioned, my goal was April to April to do 200 interviews on podcasts, which I just, with yours, I'm at 201. So 2001, a space podcast, right? So there's Chris, and they've been all over the map. But what's interesting is that there's a commonality because all of us have relationships. Mm-hmm. And no one's teaching us how to discern in those relationships. And so we've hit a note, there's a chord with that people say, this is something that really does need to be, because I can tell they're thinking in their own mind of the people that, they're stomping out fires and their stress level goes up when they say their name, and it's having a direct impact on them. And, for them to get the checklist, they should sign up for our newsletter, by the way. Go to giversuniversity.com. giversuniversity.com. It's a free newsletter. We don't spam. We send out one newsletter a week, Thursday morning. It's about a 5-minute read. That's it. We don't blow up your email box or anything else. And you'll also get the checklist of the 25 deeds that helps you be able to discern in your relationships. So we're working on these, and right now we're focused on helping people, teaching them how to discern and how to build those communities around you, because your productivity goes up. If you have 12 people in your giver community that's really close to you, and you're focused on helping every single one of them become a millionaire, what's going to happen to you?
Millionaire.
Exactly right.
Become a millionaire. Wow.
Yes, that's
amazing. EA, thank you so much, and live long and prosper.
Thank you, Chris. God bless you, buddy.
God bless you. 1 second.